appreciate it if you would stop Rob Taylor from blathering on and on.
Opinions expressed by the talk show hosts, callers, or guests on the Rob Taylor Report do not necessarily represent the opinions of the hosting platform, subsidiaries, sponsors, or possibly anyone else on the planet or the known universe. From the tinfoil and lead-lined broadcast bunker on the beautiful south coast of Oregon, it's the Rob Taylor Report. So strap yourself in. Your political therapy session is about to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, the nearly famous Rob Taylor.
Hey, Coos County. Hey, Oregon, America, and beyond. I want to thank you all for joining me tonight. It's going to be a pretty good show. I got a panel of people, not just one, not just two, but three people. But unfortunately, only one of them is on the line right now. So we'll get to that lovely lady in just a moment. But I do want to let you know that anything that you see on here, a lot of the content that we go over, you can check that out and get more of that information from the Rob Taylor Report. That's my website, robtaylorreport.com. And I would highly recommend if you like this stuff, if you like what you get, then please like, share, and subscribe to my page because, well, that's one of the few places you'll get to see all the things that I do. And I highly recommend, please become a friend and follow my page on Facebook. I get out a lot of information and I don't always get to put it on my website. So Facebook is a good place to go. And do check out our Oregonians Against Wind Turbines Facebook page. That's Oregonians Against Wind Turbine Facebook page. And I'm going to go ahead and bring on the only one who seems to be joining me right now is Diane Rich. Diane, how you doing?
Hi, Rob. I'm doing well.
That's good. That's good to hear. And I can hear you quite well. So it's a good thing. So how has your week been?
My week's been wonderful. You know, I went to the beach the other day. We really live in paradise, don't we? When
We
you can
do.
leave 10 minutes later, you're on the beach. And, I mean, how can things be better than that? It's just amazing here.
The only thing that would make it better is if we were on a warm beach. That's, maybe I would prefer it to be a little bit warmer because that water's damn cold, even though it's beautiful. It's beautiful stuff out there. It's beautiful scenery. But ever since I moved here, I'm used to swimming in warm rivers and, well, rivers were cold, but warm lakes in the Southwest. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, see, we never had that in Utah where I'm from. They're all cold. So I'm kind of used to it. So you just don't go out into the water, get a kayak. You're good to go.
They put on those suits, those neoprene suits, and they look like seals out there in the water, like shark food. So
shark food, you got it. Yeah. No, but we're so lucky to live here and have our children have the chance to learn how to surf and, spend time in the ocean with all of the clear water and beautiful skies and air that we have here. We're really blessed. Hey, Marty.
Hello.
How you doing, Marty?
I'm doing okay.
Did you know it was Flag Day?
I did. I don't have a flag though, so I'm so depressed. I have this flag.
Well, I was going to say if you were DBS, you would have had this flag. So.
Yeah, I've got my pledge. I've got my pledge pin, but I'm going for the right country.
Right country, yes.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Right on.
Yeah.
So happy Flag Day.
Happy Flag Day.
Or Happy Rolling Rock Day, whichever day you want to call it.
Happy birthday, President Trump Day. I mean, that guy is celebrating. He celebrates one hell of a birthday, let me tell you.
I'll have to take your word for it. I've never been invited to any of his birthday parties, so.
It was funny. I was reading a Telegram group, and somebody was bragging. It was Solomon Yu and his girlfriend. Gosh, I can't think of her name right off.
Cindy Lou Who.
Yeah, Cindy Lou Who. And it was funny because they were walking around and we were all trying to guess how much. And I think we came up with 500. Did someone say those tickets were $500,000? That can't be right.
Where is he getting that kind of money?
I don't know, but that just I could see 50,000. Maybe I live in a completely different world when I see that post. I don't know. I'll have to verify that.
Well, that's an amount, to spend that much money when the whole state of Oregon doesn't spend that much money on getting all the people into office, right? That's kind of ridiculous.
That is completely ridiculous. Well, I'm glad you guys joined me. I don't know where Michaele is. She was debating on whether to take the kids to the movies or not. And I told her, hey, don't sweat it. If you can't get on here tonight, that's fine. So maybe she'll join us. Maybe not. We'll see. Maybe she forgot. I don't know. Maybe I should text her. But either way, we've got a lot to talk about. We got a lot to cover because it's been, even though I had a really breezy week, it's been hell on a lot of people. And we've had a lot of good Supreme Court rulings, but it's been hell on people like Hunter Biden this week, and it's been hell on the commissioners. And I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with that. I'm going to add this to the stage, but tomorrow or Monday night, they're having a town hall. And this is just one commissioner who is, well, he's tired that nobody seems to be taking these budget cuts that are going on with the county very seriously. And this is Commissioner Rod Taylor, and he is asking people to show up Monday to a town hall to discuss ways to fund the jail and DA's office. The town hall will be at Marshfield's Heritage Hall, across the parking lot to the east from the main building. Most of the parking for that space is in the parking lot below it. This is Marshfield High School, 6:30 p.m., Monday, June 17th. And I don't know if you all have heard about this, but he's got an interesting plan.
Why, yes, I have heard about it, oddly enough.
Have you talked to Rod lately?
Just last night, as a matter of fact.
Good deal, because I talked to him, I think it was yesterday morning, and he just sounds, I don't know, just the job is wearing on him. And he's a lot of people are really downing on him on ways that they shouldn't be downing on him, and starting the most incredibly vicious rumors about him. We said some things about David Brock Smith that at least we could back up, but boy, there are people out there putting some absolutely vicious rumors against Rod Taylor. And if you want to go after his voting record or something, I'm all in to talk about that. I don't always agree with him, but when people are talking about him committing criminal acts, it's infuriating. So I don't know if you've heard about these things going on.
I haven't heard of any of the rumors other than the one crank that always shows up at every commissioners meeting and asks for Rod Taylor to be arrested because he was in Washington, D.C. for January 6th. And he's like, and if you're a constitutional sheriff, you should arrest him. And I'm like, if you understood the Constitution at all, you would shut up because you're sounding like an idiot. Yeah. I mean, it's like, okay, he was exercising his First Amendment right to free speech. He was exercising his amendment right to regress, take grievances against your government in a peaceful way. He was, using his constitutional right to assemble peaceably. What was it exactly that he was doing that was illegal and unconstitutional? And this guy spouting the Constitution, saying that the constitutional sheriff should arrest him. I'm like, I don't think, it's sort of like Princess Bride. I don't think that word means what you think it means.
That's Mark Daly. That's Mark Daly, if it's the guy I'm thinking. He's the former mayor of Coos Bay, and he's... Wow,
do all the mayors in the Coos Bay area, are they all like nut jobs, or what's the dealio with that?
Well, Mark is an interesting character. I knew him for many, many years before I knew how radical leftist he was. He's a socialist, and his kids are ultra socialist. And so it was really hard, starting into when Trump got elected and stuff. They were just so anti anything that's Republican, conservative, libertarian. And, they were very much we call it socialism, but let's face it, they were talking about communism, ending property rights, taking away, call it creating new rights, that we're going to take away your property rights, but the government has to give you a house. I have never understood that.
Yeah. Okay. It's like, I want all my stuff for free. And if you actually went out and earned your stuff, then you don't deserve to have that stuff because, oh my God, we're leeches and we want to defend our right to be leeches.
Yes. The right to be a leech. Hey, I think we've got a Michaele on stage. Hey, Michaele.
Hey, what do you know?
I'm so sorry.
That happens.
I was having technical difficulties getting in.
I hope it wasn't the link, was it? Or was it?
No, it was my email. It was a me problem, not a you problem.
Oh, okay. Well, I can live with that then. I've got so many me problems myself. I don't know if I can live with it.
I don't have enough time in the day to just codify all the me problems I got going on, but yeah.
So we were talking.
Speaking of that, I've got my me problem going on here.
Oh, I didn't want to take shots of tequila on the show, so I took about 4 or 5 before the show. That's,
there you go. Well, it is medicinal,
It was medicinal tequila. And so, and I had a little umbrella in it, and it was.
You're good to go, right?
I'm good to go.
I hear we're going to have some rain. And so you want an umbrella on your drink, so in case it rains, it doesn't get watered down, because who the heck wants a watered down drink? So, the umbrella is.
Those things out of paper. Have you noticed that? Those umbrellas are made out of paper. They ain't going to keep any rain out. What's the matter with these people?
Well, but they're also handy for lighting your cigarette if you need to. So you can just dip it in the tequila, light it on fire, and get your smoke going. You're set. It's a multi-purpose tool.
Thank you from the School of Hunter Biden there. I'm sure that's in one of his chapters.
Better crack pipes spilled daily.
with your cocktail umbrella.
Yeah.
Well, that's crazy. That's just crazy. So we were talking about, Michaele, the Monday town hall meeting that one of our commissioners is called, and what he's going to talk about. And I'd like to hear all 3 of your thoughts on this, because this is something a lot of counties are going to be facing, especially your county, Michaele. Next year, Douglas County is hitting a huge budget crunch. I don't know if you knew this or not, but it's Curry County. They just hit the wall. They had a $2.23 per 1,000 tax levy that failed by 72%. Our tax levy failed by 60%. And, nobody can be blamed except the fact that, I don't think you can so much blame. Maybe you could put some blame on the commissioners. All right. I could put some blame on them, but I think overall people are just taxed enough already. We pay enough taxes. We're pissed off about it. And no matter who's going to ask us for money, it could be for kittens and orphans. And we're just at this point, just forget it. And so he's got an idea to get rid of property tax, because only property owners pay property tax. And he wants to put a 2% sales tax on items sold in Coos County, so that the tourists have to pay. People who are not paying property taxes now would have to pay. People who are rich would pay a lot more in taxes than me, because they buy a lot more. And the sales tax would match inflation, because that's part of the county's problem, is that the property tax doesn't rise and ebb and flow the way inflation does, forcing the county to pay more or pay less, depending on if inflation is going up or not, and whether money coming in can keep up with that. It just doesn't happen with property taxes, because it's about the same each year. And so with a sales tax, you would have that ebb and flow with inflation that would allow the county to keep up with that kind of thing. And so I myself, and I'll be honest with you, if I had to pay a tax, and I don't like paying any of them, but if I have to pay a tax, I'd rather pay a consumption tax than a property tax, because of the 4 reasons that I just talked to you about. And
there's also some caveats on that as well, where it's not for it's not for the food you buy at McKay's or Ray's or whatnot, and it's not for pharmaceuticals. So if you're going to the drugstore, if you're going to the market, you're not going to get taxed on that. So this is not going to hit the lowest of low income, you're still going to get your food at the same price. You're still going to get your drugs at the same price. But if you go to a restaurant, it's going to be 2% more. 2% more, big deal. I mean, right now, our biggest problem is it's 40% more than it was, 4 years ago, because of the cost of everything has gone up. I mean, I just got out of the restaurant business 2 years ago, and it was getting to the point where, well, plus it was in San Francisco. So I knew San Francisco was swirling the toilet. We're like, we got to close this place down. And luckily we found somebody to buy us out, which is so nice that we didn't have to like keep eating it on that lease. But, the prices for it was pizza and beer is the only thing we did. And just the price for flour and tomato sauce and everything had gone up so much. You can only jack the price of a pizza up so high before people just go, well, I'll just go get Chef Boyardee and do it myself, as opposed to coming to your restaurant. And so, I remember we used to have the restaurant was called Pie Bar, the pie symbol with a bar underneath it, because it was hand-tossed New York style pizzas and craft beers. And we used to have the pie special where you could get a slice of beer and a beer, a slice of pizza and a slice of beer. A slice of beer and a drink of pizza. No, you get a slice of pizza and a beer for $7.22, or whatever it was at the time. We figured out some way to make it look like pie. Not like 7 over 22 is kind of like pie. Or it was $6.28, 2 pie, that kind of thing.
So you're saying you would be for that? You would be for the consumption tax over the property tax as it is today?
Oh yeah, and not only that, but the idea is to also lower your property tax, which will make it easier for people that are on fixed incomes to retain their properties, because their property tax isn't going to go up again because we lost a lot of funding. We can't log much anymore. We can't fish much anymore. Outside of abandoned dunes, where are we getting money here? It's not like we can go to the Mill Casino and say, hey, we're jacking up your taxes, because, well, I'm sure the nation of tribes would be like, no, you can't do that.
Let me get Diane in here. Diane, what do you say to that?
Gentlemen, coming from a state that has sales tax, it's a very slippery slope. And you start out with, well, we won't put tax on food and we won't put tax on pharmaceuticals. And the next thing you know, they'll put a little tax on food and they'll put a little tax on pharmaceuticals. And now it's to the point where in Utah, it was 6.75%.
Yeah.
And now up to 8.25. And in the resort areas, it's up to 10%.
Wow.
So, this is, once you open that gate, it's over. So I would recommend that you don't open that gate, and that you leave everything the way it is. You don't need to have a slush fund with your property taxes. When
Michaele,
you say that up
go ahead.
a year, that's a lot. Not all of
it is a lot.
3% per year. So
I think he said 2%. I think I said 2%.
Yeah, the last number I saw was 2% as well. And also the lowering of property taxes so that, if you are building something or you want to, stay in your home, it'll actually cost you, $300 to $1,000 less a year in property taxes, because technically they're supposed to be able to get between $8 and $12 million a year on just a 2% increase on sales tax. Coming from Taxifornia, when I lived in California, Alameda County, we had state tax, and then we had city tax, and then we had county tax. And it was like Alameda County itself had like a 9.5% tax on stuff you did in the county. Every time I bought gas for my plane, it was like, oh, and here's an extra, 9.5%. So I would fly to an airport out of county, fill up, save $50, and then come back.
Michaele, you want to respond?
Well, I think that's a good point that he brings up right there, is like really forcing people out of the local economy to go to other places to buy things when you have a sales tax. So if you're to impose something like that just in your county, you're just going to have people leave, and buy things other places, which is going to negatively impact your county. You have to reform this at the state level if you're going to do it, and it will have to change everything. It will be no more property tax, no more income tax. We do a sales tax instead, and we have to agree on that as a state. I 100% agree with Diane. Do not open that up in your area. All you're doing is you're not cutting anything back. You're just allowing additional types of tax on the people. It's terrible.
So I had sent him the link to this show and told him we would be discussing this at the first of the show because he was wanting input on it. So I love the honesty because that's what I wanted from everyone, because I hate taxes. And even though I like consumption tax over property tax, all of those worries that all three of you have said, I mentioned the benefits at the beginning, but now when you hear all the worries, it's like, are we really going into a better system to switch it from property tax to a consumption tax? And the thing is he's only talking about getting rid of the county portion of the tax.
Mm-hmm.
So we would still be paying property tax on all the others, the way I understood it. But I was impressed with something that he had put out. And if you look at your screen, it says, in budget deliberations, I will not vote for any proposal that curtails public safety. This includes the sheriff's department, the jail, and the district attorney's prosecution division. These institutions must remain fully funded in order to protect the safety of the public and the rule of law in Coos County. The jail must remain open with a minimum 2 pods, and the goal of the 3rd open pod should remain on a table in the shortest term possible. And so a lot of people were quite happy that he made that statement, but I don't know. I don't know if that's going to help him out any, because I'll be honest with you, like I said at the beginning, I don't think anyone's going to vote for a tax no matter what it is.
Yeah, well, the biggest problem that I don't think a lot of people understand is that, what is it now? It's like almost $4 million in the hole. I mean, and it's not like we have all these departments that have like way more people than they'll ever need. I mean, the DA's office, they're 1,300 cases behind because they don't have enough assistant DAs to do the workload. We can't keep people in jail, not because, we don't have enough criminals. No, we have plenty of criminals. We just don't have enough jail space or enough jailers to make sure, we got to pay for this stuff. So it's like, we don't have the sheriffs and we don't have the DAs. Well, crime's going to go rampant. And, if we're $4 million in the hole, and we're $4 million in the hole, and it's like, where are we going to get that money from? It's not like we can, cut down a bunch of timber.
Maybe we don't need the money. What we need to do is take a hint from that movie Death Wish with Charles Bronson.
That's what we need is vigilantism.
Yeah, vigilantism. And we'll just take care of it. And since there's nobody going to get arrested or prosecuted, I'm thinking maybe now's the time. If we're going to go Dirty Harry and Death Wish on these people, now's the time to do it. Diane, I'm sorry, you were going to say something.
I have a that I think might be better. Why don't we get the jobs back in the Elliott Forest? Because that $1 million shortfall would be very easy to accommodate if we were to put out a request for information, get a group in there, let's timber, use the timber that's there in the forest, in the Elliott Research Forest, put some aside for research and the rest of it for jobs for our citizens. And all of a sudden we wouldn't have that shortfall. And gentlemen, that's one way to do it. The other thing is that we shouldn't be shutting down all of our seafood processors and all of the companies that actually are supporting the seafood processors, like all the hydraulic companies, all the boat repair companies, and all the companies that sell boats. It seems like every single thing that our government is doing right now is harmful to our economy and harmful to our people. And, this situation that Rod is bringing forward is really important, but it's going to get a whole lot worse before it gets a whole lot better if we don't stop the wind turbines and all the industries that's going to affect.
Totally. So, Michaele, you want to chime in on this one too? Because like I said, I think this is going to be something that's definitely going to be affecting your neighborhood if it's not already as well.
Well, it has affected our neighborhood. It's affected Douglas County in a big way. The timber industry, was booming until the government got too far involved in it. And I think that if we think that putting wind turbines off the coast, that they're not going to impact our seafood industry, if they're not going to affect our fishermen, that's just a short-sighted opinion on that. And I think that we've got to take this seriously. You know, maybe we didn't see it coming the first time around when they were coming after our trees, but our next biggest industry is our, you know, for our coastal regions is that ability to be able to bring in seafood, and we need to be protecting the fishermen now while we have the chance to prevent it. People have got to get involved. They've got to learn about these things. They've got to join these protests. You guys are doing those flag waves and sign waves and everything. So many weekends, and we're getting so much positive energy from that when people are showing up for that. And I would just really encourage people, like, start thinking about it. What do you want Oregon to look like realistically? Do you want this to be a place where families can thrive and where they can actually have a living and not have to work for either government agencies or, you know, other sort of corporations? Do we want to be able to continue our Oregon life, or are we just resigned to give it up to whatever it is that they want to turn our shores into? And it's scary.
It is very scary, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who are in the industry. Me and Diane know, we've been to the meetings, we've talked to these people. They are worried about their industry and their livelihood. To switch gears a little bit, but kind of to stay on the same point, is I just got this. Diane had sent this to me, but I get these notices as well.
Leave this. I read this, sent it to you, and just thought, okay.
Yeah. Man arrested on 644 counts of violation of a restraining order.
644 counts. That's pretty serious, guys.
That's unbelievable. I mean, that's wow. You know, in the old days, we used to take these people to prison and they would be beat up and abused in prison and go, oh, hey, we don't want to go there. The food sucks and the people really suck worse. And so it's like, we don't put them in prison anymore. There is no punishment, you know, and it's funny. Then, you know, you get to the point where you're talking like I was talking about death wish, but nobody wants to go there. But what are you going to do at a certain point? 644 times. If I'm the person that's on the other end of the violation, the victim, at a certain point, what right do I have to strap a gun to my waist, and as soon as this guy shows up on the 645th time, to just completely take him out? I don't know.
Isn't that just nuts? I can't imagine.
Oh, go ahead.
This is almost every day for 2 years.
Yeah.
And then he violated a restraining order. You know how strong are they? You know, you got to get a restraining order. We can't do a single thing without a restraining order. And I've had them. I put them out before. And here it is, 2 years every day. No, they're worthless. They really are. And it's unfortunate because we need to have those be in place. There are crazy people out there and we need to have protection. And, you know, when you show something like this, and you guys all know that the gas gets stolen out of my Tahoe on a regular basis. Okay. Right. Now, I have a really hard time paying the sheriff more money when my gas gets stolen out of my car on a regular basis. Until that stops happening, I will never, ever vote for an increase to get better protection, because what am I getting for my money? The bottom line thing for our money.
Yeah, but at the same time with it, you know, the biggest problem is what do you know, how do you, if you have thin resources, how do you actually address, you know, when I was living in Oakland, California, it was like, if it's not a murder, we don't have enough time to show up and even take your complaint.
Right.
I mean, you know,
they actually showed up one time 4 hours after the crime was committed, and they said, well, how long ago was this that it happened? I said 4 hours ago. And he goes, oh, after that amount of time, we don't chase them at this point. You're like,
yeah, I mean, it's like I had a car stolen, I had a few other things stolen, and it was like, yeah, sorry, there's nothing we can do for you. And that was the extent of it. And I said, well, can you at least give me some paperwork so I can get insurance on it? and even the insurance company was like, well, you live in Oakland, we're not paying that. And I'm like, okay, thanks. Good thing I wasted all that money on insurance. Talk about another confidence scam. But yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Michaele, I want to change the subject again. Like I said, we got a lot to cover tonight. And one of the things that we were talking about is, and this is what got me in trouble back in November on my radio show. Me and Diane, we were asking questions. That's all we were doing, was asking questions and getting nothing but lies and fluff in a response. And so this is once again a situation where we're not accusing anyone of anything, but we've got some questions for County Commissioner Tim Freeman, and I'd like him to come on the show. I should send him an email and ask him to be on the show because I think it would be interesting. And I have met him a long time ago. He probably doesn't remember me, but there's an interesting situation going on, and we had some questions about it because it has to do with an actual business, the way I understand it. Why don't you explain it, if you would?
Well, I don't actually understand it, which would be great if you would come on the show and explain. Somebody had posted on social media that they thought it was interesting that Tim Freeman was listed on the business name filing with the Secretary of State for an organization called Oregon Timber Counties Coalition, which just, basically led to some looking up of what is that. And I need to pull
that'll get you in trouble. That's what you do. That is your problem right there, is going with facts. You ought to just lie. Yeah. Put on that Thompson Twins song. Lies. Yeah.
I was interested because, the timber industry, that's a big thing here in Douglas County. And we were just talking about this a second ago. This is actually where all of our money is, right? And all of our money is sort of tied up in the government right now, and we're not really seeing the percentages that we should be. We are not benefiting from our actual natural resources here in Douglas County. That's a problem. So my understanding, and maybe you understand this differently, I'm not quite sure. Once again, asking questions. I'm not an expert on this. My understanding is that Oregon Timber Counties Coalition, the purpose of forming it was to basically provide multiple counties with a voice to be able to hire a lobbyist to fight for the interests of these counties who want their money back from the timber industry, right? Like that is the ultimate goal, that's what it's supposed to, that's what's supposed to be done. Anyway, there are, is it 7 counties, 8 counties involved in this?
Something like that. Our county, Coos County, and I believe even Curry County is involved, isn't it?
It's money against,
yeah.
It's a claim against the state, because the state was managing those forests for the counties, and then they just kept all the money.
Well, okay, so this Oregon Timbers Counties Coalition, though, they have multiple counties who are all giving money into a fund, into like a general fund every year. Douglas County is giving $15,000. There are a couple counties that are giving $15,000. Some smaller counties are giving $7,500. And what they did is they hired a company, and I'm going to mess it up because I can't seem to find it on my phone right now. It is a lobbyist here it is, Jameson and Sullivan lobbyist, or Jameson and Sullivan Associates. I don't know what it is, something like that. They are lobbyists who are supposed to be going to Salem, and they're supposed to be advocating for this timber, for the timber industry. The problem is that I believe the amount that this coalition is taking in is something like $80,000 every year. And this has been happening since 2020, 2021, something like that. So the first year, all of the money was given over to this lobbying firm. The second year,
Hold on. How much money was that the first year?
I think it was
I think you
$80,000.
said it was 80,000 when we were talking. That's
Yeah.
a considerable amount, but lobbyists make a lot of money.
Yeah, and if you do 80,000 by 3 or 80,000 by 4, you're talking like almost $250,000 at this point. So,
But the
Yeah,
thing is, and Marty, she'll get to this, there's other groups that these guys lobby for the same thing while they're up there. So this is multiple checks they're collecting, if that's true.
it is. It's true. Well, it's according to Open Secrets. It is true. So,
And we're just
Yeah.
asking questions. Just ask it. Don't want to get a cease and desist letter.
no, no. My question is, and $80,000 to them is okay in my opinion. in my opinion, $80,000 is okay because they
Right.
took in $80,000, so they should be paying $80,000 out, and they did that. That was the first year in 2021. 2022, they, in my understanding, they took in $80,000. They only gave $20,000 to Jameson and Sullivan. The next year, 2023, took in $80,000 in my understanding and only gave out $30,000. And then this year, once again, I don't know, maybe they just haven't gotten all the money in yet and they haven't paid it all out yet. I don't know. It's 2024 still. But they've only given $10,000 out to the lobbying firm. So there's some money that I don't know where it's being spent. I don't know what it's being spent on. It appears to me that this coalition was formed just for the purpose of hiring a lobbyist to be able to do this work. I would like to know those things. I think it would be great if Tim Freeman came on here and explained that discrepancy. Where is the additional money? Because Tim Freeman is the commissioner in Douglas County. He actually voted to give this money to this coalition, in my understanding. At least maybe he abstained from that vote. I don't know. It doesn't matter. He kind of controls the money in Douglas County with the other commissioners. That money left the county and went to this coalition that appears to be under his name. The other interesting thing that came up is when I was looking at who is Jameson and Sullivan, the other big donor is Douglas County, which is weird. And then also Association of ONC Counties.
Which
And
is huge.
somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that Tim Freeman is, or has at least in the past, served as president. I don't know if he's the current president of the Association of ONC Counties, but I am almost positive that he mentioned that in his last campaign speech when we were doing our candidate forum. So that's something to look into. Either way, all of these things are connected, and this lobbying firm is receiving a lot of money from Douglas County and other neighboring counties. What appears to be for lobbying efforts. And I don't know how much the timber industry has benefited from that in the last 4 years, but it certainly is a lot of money.
That is a lot of money. And like you said, the weird part isn't really the fact that they're paying for a lobbyist. It's just that the amount that they're paying went down so little, and yet they're still getting the same amount from the other counties, which we have added up to 80,000. And like I said, it's hard to get into those numbers because this is a private company that's doing this business.
yeah, and if you're doing 80,000 in, but you're only doing like 30,000 or 10,000 out, maybe the firm is only billing them for the actual work they do, which might be possible. So you got 80,000 in a slush fund, and it's like, you know, the lobbying firm says, well, we only did like $15,000 worth of work this year, so that's all we're going to, bill you. Mm-hmm. So that might be one answer, but it also just kind of brings up the question: well, if they got $80,000 and they only spent 20, we'll just use 60 of that next year and only ask for $20,000. Are you setting aside 80,000 because that's a flat rate, or are you setting aside 80,000 because it's just a nice round number? I don't know. Oh, and a big hello to the guy who said he wanted to pound Rolling Rocks with me. So
yeah, anytime.
Back at you.
Back at you anytime. Yeah, Lenny, just let me know. I'll send you Marty's phone number. You guys, he can do that. He lives on a lake. He can pound away the Rolling Rock.
Right, it's lawnmower beer, baby.
Yeah, lawnmower beer. Michaele, I put up the screenshot where, yes, apparently that AOCC president is Commissioner Tim Freeman from Douglas County. AOCC vice president is our own Bob Main, who's up for re-election right now. And the secretary/treasurer is the commissioner from Polk County, Craig Pope. Pope from Polk. And so
I like it. It's alliterative.
So that's just interesting that all these counties are paying into something, and it just doesn't seem like the money is flowing back out as much as it's coming back in.
What is AOCC?
AOCC, yes.
That's a different organization, and I don't actually know anything about their finances or whether or not, I don't know how much they're taking in from the counties. I haven't looked into that, but it is interesting.
Oh, that is right. You're right. That's the Association of Oregon Counties. I apologize.
Yeah. So, I don't know specifically. No, I think that was the Association of O and C counties that you just showed. But it is different than what's the other one? Oregon Timber Counties Coalition. What I think is interesting, though, is that we have these multiple coalitions. We have these multiple entities that all seem to be like sort of in the same counties, and I don't know how they're taking in money or recording it. It's not because it's a private business. There isn't like tracking that you can look at on the Secretary of State website. It's not like it's a PAC or something like that. So my big concern would be for there to be complete and total transparency about where these public funds are going, how they're being spent specifically, and that for it to be easily accessible to the citizens so that we know that our money from our counties is going to do the work that we're sending it there for.
This is like with David Brock Smith. We couldn't put a finger on absolute corruption or any corruption at all. It was just a lot of suspicious things that we were asking questions about, and we couldn't find a lot of information because they were held up in nonprofits or with LLCs. And this is one of the things when people who are in office commingle their businesses, their nonprofits with their government position, always is going to bring in the question of suspicion. Wouldn't that just be natural?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Not only that, but my question with, the timber city council or whatever the heck he said it was before, it's like, okay, they're spending $80,000. Now, is this consulting firm or this lobbyist firm, do they have a performance metric? I used to be a computer consultant. I would say, okay, it's going to be $15,000 to do this job. And at the end of the job, they'd say, okay, that was $15,000 worth, and I could laundry list everything I did for them. They're going, okay, we got our money's worth. That's cool. These guys, okay, we gave them $80,000. What did we get? All of a sudden now we're getting $2 billion more board feet that we can sell. Yes or no, that kind of thing.
And to your point, it was $80,000 from the Oregon Timber Counties Coalition. It was also $80,000 from the Association of ONC counties. So that's $160,000, and that's not it. They took money in for other things too. So, how much work? That is a lot. The $160,000. That's a lot of money. How many lobbyists do you have? How frequently are they in Salem? Because you're talking about, they're only in session part of the year. So do you have multiple lobbyists? How much are you paying these people? That sounds like a great deal. How do I get that job?
I was just going to say, a lot of politicians, what they will do after their political career is over, they'll go to being lobbyists because they know everyone in politics. And they get paid a lot of money to go and wine and dine and schmooze with all the right people. And it just blows my mind what lobbyists really are. They're just they're just one lip shy of a blowjob. I hate to be that disgusting, but you know what I mean? It's like, this is what they're doing with your politicians. And we know that on the left and the right, there are some really bad lobbyists out there.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, and I mean, and they're essentially, as you said, I mean, it's they're probably the nicest way of saying they're prostituting their connections to make a lot of money. So they're basically professional schmoozers, or however you want to pronounce that. But basically, that's all they do is they glad hand, they schmooze, and glad hand. Yeah, now I'm going off into the weeds. Sorry, but. But anyway, no, I mean, it's like lawyers and prostitutes. You know, you're going to pay a lot for either one, and hopefully you get your money's worth. So, I mean, I guess it's the same for lobbyists. I wouldn't know because I've rarely paid for lawyers.
You think with this whole Stormy Daniels thing, they would know you just can't. There's not enough money in the world to keep these people shut up. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and pay no attention to the two. Yeah. Pay no attention to the two letters she wrote that said, I've never had an affair with Donald Trump. I never took money from him. I mean, it was Cohen that was PO'd because he didn't get a position in the Trump presidency. So he turned on him and started grafting. He actually admitted in court, you know, in testimony in court, that he was stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars from the Trump campaign. And he was fine with it because he thought it was owed it because they didn't appoint him attorney general when Trump took office. And he's like, so he was going out of his way to burn him to the ground.
Hold on to that info because we got a story coming up that deals with that. And I want to tell Michaele, thank you for this information because we're going to do a little bit deeper dive into it. I will send Tim Freeman an email asking him to come on the show and let's talk about it. And see, you know, what's the worst he can do is say no. I mean, you know, like I said, there should be, if there's nothing going on, there shouldn't be any problem with someone coming on the show to answer those type of questions. So, and like I said, he might do it.
Knowledgeable. Like honestly, he's a very knowledgeable person. I've talked to him many, many times. You know, he knows the forest. He knows his job inside and out. He has been all over the state in lots of positions. So, you know, he is a wealth of knowledge. And if he agrees to come on the show, I think that would be fantastic.
I totally agree.
And just to be completely clear about this, at no point are we saying we think he's doing anything wrong. All we want to know is there are some questions that seem to need to have answers. And they may be really innocuous answers. There may be really simple answers to these questions that are just as innocent as possible, but until we ask the questions and get an answer, we don't know. So now we're left with speculating, and well, we know how well that worked out last year. Yeah. So
it didn't work out so well. So
I'm sure Rumble's not going to fire you. So let's put it that way.
Thank goodness. So I'm adding to the stage is that if you guys didn't know this, me and Marty went to an offshore wind lease meeting with the Department of Conservation and Land Development because for some reason we need a Department of Conservation and Land Development. I don't know. Land Development, yeah. And so, the Department of Redundancy Department, and so we
need more of those.
We need more of those. And we were there to, and David Brock Smith was there. It was funny. I had made a comment about House Bill 3375, the windmill bill. And he spent the first minute of his answer trying to reject what I asked and said during my time to ask questions, which they at least, this was a lot better than BOEM. I think Marty can attest to this. This was a lot better than BOEM's meeting. We were able to actually speak to these people. But if you folks can see on the screen, the email or written comments is ending this Saturday, June 15th. You still got about 24 hours to send an email, your comments to the enforceable policies. You have to, basically what I would tell them is put up any studies or researches or development regulations that they can and enforce those policies based on, you know, the economy, the environment, cultural issues, economic issues, I already said economic, environmental issues, and wildlife issues, and to try to impose all the enforceable policies, because there are state enforceable policies county and city enforceable policies. And that's what we have to comment on. And actually, I have to give kudos to David Brock Smith. He was telling the audience, if you make comments relevant to the criteria of the question they are asking. And in this question, it's about their enforceable policies. You could tell them that you don't want the windmill leases. I did, but then you have to explain to them why you think what they should do to reject those policies and to use the enforceable rules that are in Goal 19 and in other areas to protect, like I said, the environment and the economy and whatnot. Marty?
And they basically explain this as a federal consistency review. So they want to make sure that, before BOEM is allowed to sell these leases, that they're not, they're doing everything by federal standards. Well, obviously they're not, because they haven't done their EPA studies. They haven't done the environmental impact reports, and so forth and so on.
Right.
But if you go to that web form, it'll basically say, here's how you can give us your feedback and make sure it's in the, it follows these kind of guidelines. It's, this is only to make sure that BOEM has followed government policy and is consistent with federal laws in giving out these leases. It has nothing to do with what happens after the leases are given out. It's basically a yay, nay, or maybe answer that the DCLD will give them. So basically they say, yeah, everything's fine, go ahead and start doing leases. Or they'll say, well, it's a maybe if you put these things on it. So it's like, okay, once you get an EPA thing or you get an environmental impact study, even before you sell the leases, because one of the lawyers got up and said, I have never seen this before, where it's like, okay, we'll sell you the lease to this land, but we haven't done any of the environmental impact studies or the EPA stuff. So there's absolutely no way we can tell you whether you can use that land or not. And, and it's like, nobody has to have their financing in place, which it's like, okay, who does that? Yeah. And it's like, and so it's like, yeah, like all these things were so inconsistent. And, it was interesting that not only was DBS there, but Rod Taylor was there, Bob Main was there, John Sweet was there, Rod Taylor got, and Melissa Cribbins, yay. Melissa Cribbins. But Bob Main got up and gave a really nice speech, a little disconnected at points, but it was a nice speech.
He was drinking some Rolling Rock when Bob got up there. He was so.
I don't think he's a Rolling Rock kind of guy.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think he's a Rolling Rock kind of guy. He's probably a couple of martinis into it, but I'm only guessing at what he drinks for fun and profit. And then
one of the things that blew my mind, Marty, was the nice Russian lady who asked them if they were doing any monitoring. Are they planned on doing any monitoring of the sea life in the ocean? And the guy said, no, we don't actually do monitoring. And when she got up to speak, she said, they monitor every time we go out on a boat. We either do it through some technical means, or there's an actual observer on the boats to monitor the effects fishermen have on the environment. And here they are putting these huge windmills in, and the guy admitted, we're not even going to monitor that crap. I mean, whatever.
Right. Yeah, we're not going to monitor that. I mean, it's like one of the gals who was with the fishery, the Fishermen's Association was like, if we're out in the ocean and we injure like 2 black-tailed albatross, you lose your right to be out in that fishing area for the rest of the year. And these guys are like going, yeah, we're going to throw some windmills out there, and we don't exactly know how they're going to connect to anything, and we don't know how they're going to affect bird migrations or whale migrations or fishing or crabbing or, wind or weather. But yeah, go ahead. We'll sell you that lease. And I got a nice bridge for you if you want to buy that too.
Diane, Diane, you want to say something?
Well, I said, without a single environmental impact statement. When does that happen with anything? much less off our coast where there's a extinct mud volcano, methane plumes, and 5 unstable tectonic plates that we're going to attach these windmills to and have them spin out. And then we have to turn them off when the wind blows more than 55 miles an hour. That happens. This is the most ridiculous, outdated technology that we can use. And it's in the middle of the California Current, which provides 25% of our seafood to the United States of America. I want to know why our clamming industry and our oyster industry is now being taken hostage.
Right.
You know, all the oysters are okay up until Humboldt County, and then all the oysters are good above Washington state line. Well, what's wrong with Oregon? Have we got some kind of a bio problem here that
Yeah,
makes it
actually, you
all?
want to know why?
I do.
This was a report that came out. Oregon has a feces problem. We release a lot of feces into the ocean. Most people don't know that about Oregon, but we've got some dirty habits here. And so that's why we have to close down a lot of the time of the years, is because of the fecal matter that's not only in the water, but washes up on the beaches. In fact, Oregon is, and you can look this up, I'm not making this crap up, you can look this up, has some of the dirtiest beaches in the United States. And you would think it would be the complete opposite. But because we are most rural on the coast, a lot of people are, well, letting it wash away. So
Oh, I see. Well, it just seems to me quite different that the entire coast of Oregon is under this type of a suspension. That's a lot of territory.
that is a lot of territory. Michaele, what I hope you can take, if you get a chance, please make a comment, because we need as many people as.
I definitely will. And I just, unfortunately, when I was looking over this on the Oregon.gov website, I hate to say it, but I think they think it's a done deal already. Yeah. And if you look at some of the language that's in there, they give, for this federal consistency review, they give options of concurrence, I think with modifications or some language like that. And then an objection. And that's 2 chances for them to move it forward and 1 chance for it to be rejected. You already see like what they're framing it as, that it's going to be pushed through, because that's going to be their plan ultimately. But what's very interesting, if you read about, I think it's like about halfway down the page, it specifically talks about what will happen if it's approved, and how there's sort of a 5-year plan for them to actually figure out how to do it, leading to implementation. And wait for it, everyone, wait for it, 2030.
Yep.
Agenda 2030.
Well, and they've already said, and I asked them, it's a 7-year plan, the 5-year plan that you just talked about, the 5-year timeline. This has all been timelined out. And nothing that David Brock Smith said about House Bill 3375 was true, because it actually facilitated this project. It allowed DCLD to come in and basically give them a green flag, because they're able to say that they did public comment hearings. They had concerns for us. They were all concerned, and they're going to push this forward. And this is all going to end up in court. And I even asked the lady who was in charge if DCLD and the government would stand behind their counties and their Indian tribes, who are also opposed to it, because several people from the tribes were at this meeting and did speak out against it. And she of course wouldn't answer the question. I knew she wouldn't answer it, because she didn't want to commit to it. But this is going to end up in court. This is pretty much designed because of HB 3375 to fast track through this process as quickly as it can, because of the agencies that are now involved. And one of the things that I didn't ask, and I wanted to ask, was if they could have done this meeting, if they could have done meetings where they were going to do enforceable policies without HB 3375. And why is that important? Because if they could have done this without HB 3375, you got to ask yourself the only reason, or you got to realize that the only reason HB 3375 had to be crafted was exactly to fast track this. And
Absolutely. It
Yep.
created a roadmap and it fast tracked the entire project. It put together a strategic team, a task force. It's obvious what this was. And anybody who says it was to slow things down, all you have to do is look at the timeline.
Yep.
When was it written and where are we at today? And how much faster do you think this could possibly have gone? This is crazy to think that this HB 3375 was supposed to put the brakes on it. It created the ride from hell. And that's exactly what HB 3375, written by David Brocksmith, has done to our coast. It's a disaster.
It is. I mean, and I'm in full agreement with that. I mean, and you know, I'm so used to the fact that everything that comes out of DBS's mouth is just an unmitigated, you know, it's just a lie. And a pathological liar is so bought into their own lies that I don't even think they know they're lying anymore. It's just, you know, they think everybody's buying this stuff. And I'm like, wow, you know, you have to have a real low opinion of your constituency if you think you can spew this stuff and not, you know, and think that 90% of these people don't understand that you're just mouthing platitudes because you got your hand caught in the cookie jar. You passed this bill. You know it was going to be a fast track, and it lined up everything so they could get all their ducks in a row and get all this stuff shoved down our throat before the regime change. So it's like, you know, to say otherwise is to say you're just not smart enough to understand how we're railroading you, or how we're trying to save you from us, or something. And I'm just like, wow.
If you look at the map, the blue area on the left-hand side at the top of the map, the dark blue area, that's actually just the tip of it starts in Coos Bay, but it goes all the way to Reedsport. So this is just as much a project that's going to affect the quality of life for people who live in Douglas County. This is a Douglas County project just as much as it is a Coos County and a Curry County project, because the one on the bottom, the dark blue one on the left at the bottom, is Brookings. And I think, Michaele, what we need to do is start having protests back in Reedsport for this windmill thing. And I think that would just be a great way to unite a lot of people who's been at each other's throats, because I think a lot of people agree on this, getting rid of this project. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be great. Reedsport sort of gets left out of Douglas County matters a lot. Yeah. I think it's like the forgotten area of Douglas County. And I definitely did some research or some outreach in that area when I was the vice chair in Douglas County. I would really encourage the current leadership to do that. You guys know I'll drive over there. I'll hold signs for you. You know, if we want to organize that, I think there's some really great people in Reedsport, and I think there is an overall consensus in Douglas County that this is not what we want. We're not looking for more government overreach, and most conservatives, which make up most of the people in these counties, do not want Agenda 2030. We don't want the Green New Deal. We don't want this stuff. So yeah, let's do it.
Right. I was for today at the chainsaw sculpting contest. I'll tell you what, those rock.
Oh.
It's a lot of fun, and definitely a place that we need to touch base with and get people involved. We need as many people as possible to come out to the protests, because, it makes a big difference when you've got 50 people. And we need 50 right now. Every single weekend, we need 50 people standing shoulder to shoulder saying no to these wind turbines. We don't want this technology.
What I got on the screen right now is West Coast University's launched new Pacific Offshore Wind Collaborative. And what they're doing is they're going to send these college kids out here from the universities to explain to us rubes, because we're just too fucking stupid to know anything, that we need to be re-educated by these college kids who've never been out in the woods or in the ocean or anywhere else of matter. And they're going to re-educate us on how good these windmills are and how we are just missing the point that this could save our lives by destroying our fishing industry and wildlife. It's I love when a 20-year-old comes out and tells me about something that I've lived my life around for a long time, and they're going to re-educate me.
Right. You know, this is what Boehm did up in Newport. They brought in all of the midwater trawlers and told them that what we're going to do is we're going to change your industry so that the college students will tell you when you should fish, what you should fish, all these studies. And here these captains are, they drew the base of the, every bit of the ocean. They've mapped it. And here they want the college students to tell them how to do their job. That's so absolutely ridiculous. And one of the animal supervisors that was coming out with Boehm, she said, I'm all familiar with all the animals. I said, but you've never walked the coastline here. How do you know what's here? She's wearing
because she told us that she had never walked the coastline. Can you believe that when she was telling us that? It was unbelievable.
I mean, you've never walked up and down the cliffs. You don't know what's here. You don't know anything about king waves. How are you going to build these wind turbines and go up against king waves when you don't know what a king wave is?
Michaele, you'll love this. She said, literally looked at me and Diane in the face and said that she learned all of this about nature on her laptop. And we looked at her and she said, oh, and of course you must believe in climate change. And after me and Diane stopped laughing,
Yeah.
you are completely lost. You got to get out of your computer and you got to get out in the ocean and the woods and figure out what's going on, because the shit you're saying right now is just completely nuts. And this is all going to end up in court because, like Michaele said, they've already planned in their heads that this is a done deal. We believe it. All four of us, I think, here believe that. And it's going to come down to the counties and the Indian tribes suing. And right now, Vineyard Wind is the largest test case for U.S. clean energy. And Diane, why don't you sent me this? You want to talk about it?
Well, go ahead and you talk about it, because I get so wound up about it.
Okay, she got so wound up, it knocked her right off the computer.
Knocked her camera right off the air. Yeah, and just one side note. When I was about 6 years old, I used to believe in Santa Claus, and then I actually got some education, and I found out it was a fictional character, similar to climate change. It's like there's a lot of people that are still 6 years old going, I believe in climate change, and I'm going, and I believe in science, and I believe you're an idiot. So, so we all have our beliefs.
We absolutely do. I agree with you, and they're just fooling themselves. But let me read from this article real quick. The Vineyard Wind legal test case. 3 lawsuits down, at least 3 appeals to go. So it goes for Vineyard Wind, the 62, that's hardly anything. I think they're going to have more than that here. 62 offshore wind farm under construction south of Massachusetts. The 3 cases, which all challenge the project's federal permits, are now in front of the United States Court of Appeals for the First Circuit. How those lawsuits fare will help determine whether the Biden administration can meet its goals to boost renewable power generation while satisfying traditional environmental laws meant to protect wildlife and the ecosystems. President Joe Biden has committed to permitting 16 offshore wind projects by the end of the year. That's 16 offshore wind projects, just the projects. And I don't know how many windmills we're talking about, but a build out opposed by commercial fishermen interest and conservative groups who argue installing the turbines harm marine ecosystems and endangered species. Opponents allege that the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management failed to comply with a series of laws, including the Endangered Species Act, the Marine Mammal Protection Act, and the National Environmental Policy Act when it permitted the 800 megawatt project in 2021. And I think that if they take this from the first district all the way to the Supreme Court, the way the Supreme Court's been ruling lately, I think we're going to have a win.
got to understand the difference in sizes between those turbines. The turbines that they're talking about are not the gigabyte turbines. The ones that they want to bring out here are as tall as twice as tall as the
Yeah.
Empire State. The blades are as long as a football field. They're floating. They're attached to the ground, which of course causes so many problems for all of the habitat for the halibut and other species. We don't know everything that can go wrong here, but we do know that in most places, everything that can go wrong has gone wrong. And Joe Biden came out and said that whoever puts these in is no longer financially responsible for their removal. Now
I
we know
know.
that the wind or the wave energy projects, those pieces are still out in our ocean right now. They haven't been removed. And they were talking about 262 turbines, and they're 1 nautical mile apart. That's 219,000 acres. They just added a third more to the call area.
Wow.
Now, this is a forest of wind turbines. They're
A
noisy.
forest of wind turbines. Yeah.
They knock out all the navigation for the boats, all the navigation for the airplanes. We have constant air travel between Portland and San Francisco. And now we're going to be for wind farms that knock out the navigation systems on planes and boats. Who's thinking here? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, when I was a pilot, they had a bunch of wind farms out in northeast of Oakland, and they would always show up on weather radar as a big red cell because those turbines spinning around would confuse the Doppler radar, and the Doppler radar would go, "This is a super huge, heavy thunderstorm cell out here." But it never moved, and it was always there. And so they're just like, well, that's the anomaly of all the big wind turbines. And I'm going, yeah, now let's multiply this by, what'd you say, 62 of these things. I mean, and it's not just the Portland, 200. Yeah, and not only just the Portland to SFO flights, but you got to realize all the flights that are going from Europe to San Francisco go over the poles, and they're coming like straight down the coast as well. So, it's like, okay, great. We're putting all these people at risk. We're going to give them false information about weather reports because these turbines are going to screw everything up. And, and not only that, but to get the power from the turbine to the shore, they all have to be connected to power stations, which are big honking floating barges that have these big energy cables that go from the turbine to the barge. And then the barge, combines it all together and sends it to shore. Well, all these high energy electromagnetic cables on the seafloor, I mean, this is going to be a recipe for disaster as well. And, then once it gets to the shore, well, where's it going and how's it going to get there? Who's building the infrastructure to, take all this energy somewhere? And it's certainly not going to Coos Bay. It's not going to Bandon. It's going to be going to Las Vegas or Los Angeles or, and it's like, so we don't even get to use any of this energy. And who's going to pay for all the high tension power lines to get all that energy from wherever it comes on shore to wherever it has to go? Who's going to be eating it for that?
What's going to happen is the ratepayers pay for the transfer station to bring it on to, and then we're going to pay for the high velocity or the high
capacity
power lines from here to California. Oregon will keep 3 megabyte or 3 gigabytes, and the balance, if there is any, and we doubt there will be any extra, will go to California. Now, the cables that they've been burying, they affect the crab, indigenous crab population out here. The crab like the power cable so much that they lay down on top of it. They don't eat, they don't mate, and they die. Now, this can't be good. This is just not a good situation. And they know this happens. It's happened up and down the entire East Coast where they brought these up. And, we need to stop this before it gets started. Right
So,
now.
so what you're saying, those cables are like fentanyl to crab. Well, those cables are to crabs
Yeah.
what fentanyl is to the homeless bums who are on the streets. I get that. I get that.
And I was kind of hoping it was going to be the other way around. It's like, all the electromagnetic radiation coming off these cables is gonna turn them into super crab. So
Right.
instead of having to like get a crab that's 5 1/4 inches across the back so you can keep it, you'll have
Yeah.
a crab that's like 5.5 feet wide,
Yeah.
coming out of the ocean, like flipping over fishing boats, making like Godzilla like roars and stuff.
Why
That's
doesn't
what I
that
was.
ever happen? I watched those movies from the 50s, and
I
anytime
know.
this shit happens, they always got bigger. I mean, why is it ours always? We're doing something wrong here.
Yeah, Attack of the 50-foot crab. I'm up for that. I mean, and bring me some butter sauce. We're good to go.
Yeah. Start a fire on the beach. We're ready to go. We're all three of us. Michaele, you're not going to be there, I don't think. But tomorrow we're having a windmill rally. We recommend everyone to show up high noon at Gold Beach County Courthouse on Highway 101. That's tomorrow at noon in Gold Beach at the county courthouse, and then at 1:30 we stand in Gold Beach for an hour and a half, and then at 1:30 we leave and head over to Brookings, and we get another one started in Brookings at 2:00 at 711 Chetco Avenue. And I'd recommend everyone show up out there. And if you can't, and you want to make the next rally, go to Facebook to Oregonians Against Wind Turbines. You guys excited? I'm excited.
Yeah, well, I'm going because I'm carpooling with you guys, so I'm basically going where you guys are going. So
I wish I could be there. You guys are so much fun.
It is.
We try to be. And, I ordered some new signs, and Matt hasn't gotten back to me, which means I'll have to be making a trip to Gold Beach. Grants Pass. Yeah, it'd be Grants Pass sometime soon to see Matt Robinson and get some signs from him. But we will have the old signs, and we'll be getting the new ones by next week, because next week, following this Saturday, we're going to have another one in Coos Bay and then ending up in Bandon. So we will keep this up all summer. And I kind of want to change this, guys, because I'm really excited about what the Supreme Court has done with two different cases. And I don't know if you guys are big gun enthusiasts. I'm a big gun enthusiast. ATF stripped of power under new 9-0 emergency order by Supreme Court. In a significant ruling, the Supreme Court has issued a 9-0 emergency order that effectively strips the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives of certain regulatory powers. The decision has far-reaching implications for gun owners and federal agencies alike. A recent video by Best Iron examined the case, the arguments presented, and the potential impact of the ruling. And it's going to be huge, because what they're doing is they're neutering the ATF. Have you guys been keeping up with this? Is this something you guys...
Isn't that a great idea?
no, I know, I love it. I read the article links that you sent me, and I was just like going, wow. I mean, this is great when the Supreme Court actually does something where I'm like, normally when they do something, I'm like, wow, okay, that's not what I expected. But in this case, I actually expected, I was really surprised by it came out this well, because basically what the ATF was doing is they said, well, we just changed the rules on bump stocks. And so what was legal previously is no longer legal. And if you want to get a tax tax stamp for your new bump stock, because now it's been reclassified as a short rifle, you can go ahead and ask us. Well, so you're basically going to the ATF and you're admitting that now you are you're in possession of an illegal firearm. How's that going to work? But basically what the Supreme Court said is you guys can't change the law at whim. That's something for the legislature to do, not you. And so I like the precedent it's setting.
There was actually a situation where somebody got killed when they were trying to serve a search warrant. You know how they do it at night, and I believe the gentleman came to the door with a gun and was killed by the ATF. And I'm one of those who not only would I don't like these type of extraneous rules on my Second Amendment rights, our Second Amendment rights, and I would get rid of the ATF and explosives. Michaela, how about you? You follow this stuff?
Yeah, and thank you for sending this over. But yeah, I mean, it is all over social media right now, which I think is great. But it just kind of underscores what we already know, that we have a Second Amendment right that shall not be infringed. And I don't know why that is so difficult for people to understand that short little phrase. But absolutely to take citizens and have them be retroactively classified. They were going to be classified as felons. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes.
By owning these. So not only are you trying to steal property from people, but you're also trying to retroactively make them criminals just by changing the law. If we don't think that's government overreach, I mean, I like the society I want to live in. I don't think it's a society that anybody wants to live in. It sounds a lot like communism. So I think the Supreme Court got it right.
Diane?
Oh, I absolutely agree. And no, they should not, we have a problem in Oregon with all these stupid boards. The Board of Forestry just shut down 35,000 jobs. We can't have boards like this. This is not what we want. We want our legislators to be elected so we can get rid of them and get rid of the policies. But instead, they've got boards and the ATF and this type of stuff. This is absolutely what we do not need, do not want, and we should not ever have. And they should all be stopped.
Yeah, I mean, we really don't need people that are, non-governmental organizations and people that are just bureaucrats that we can't elect or unelect or we can't fire. I mean, it's like, where do they get off like passing laws and making rules and regulations and like cutting off forest land and, cutting off fishing and, oh, we got to save the riparian, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, saving it for who? Nobody's going to be alive because we can't afford to live. Who are you saving this for?
Let's talk about just a second. Recently they just decided through the Oregon Board of whatever that it's important for us to kill all the barred owls.
Right.
So protect the spotted owl. We're going to go out and kill the barred owl. They look alike. And who's going to go out and do this? People are going to go out to shoot 70,000 owls. Now, the odds of this turning out well are slim to none. And who in the heck decided that when we can't afford to feed our children, we can't afford to have housing, we can't afford to do all these things, that it'd be a really good idea for us to put forth money to go out and shoot owls and feral cows? That's the other thing. There's a few cows that were out, range cows. Instead of just letting the cows live, giving the farmers a chance to catch them, they had to send people out to shoot them. Cows don't really bother you out in the open. They do their own thing.
I mean, I've never had a cow attack me. Bulls, yes. Cows, never.
Yeah, I mean this is something
I used to milk cows when I lived in Iowa. I milked cows. They are like the most docile the most docile animals out there. They're like, hey, here's some hay. Come along here so I can milk you. And they're like, okay, sure, why not? Let's go. Right. Yeah. And it's like, so now you're going to gun them down because they got out of the pasture and they're just sitting there like chewing cud. It's like, wow. Hey, look at me. Look at me, Lim. I got me a cow.
Their homes and they lose their opportunity to have a good, a family wage job, divorces, children, with no clothes, the whole 9 yards, all of that for the spotted owl. And now they're going to do it again, but now we're going to kill the owls. I mean, when does this stop, guys? This is so ridiculous. They're cutting off the water supplies to farms, to dairy farms. We've got to stop these people, and we've got to do it together, and we've got to do it pretty darn quick.
The other case that I was talking about was a judge expands a block on Biden's rule to close gun show loophole to 4 states. Now, this doesn't really affect Oregon because we got draconian gun laws anyway. A federal judge in Texas has expanded an injunction against the Biden administration from enforcing a new rule that sought to close the so-called gun show loophole to an additional 3 states. In April, Biden announced a new rule to go into effect May 20th to close the so-called gun show loophole. that allowed unlicensed dealers to sell weapons to customers without performing a background check. And once again, I don't really think that we need a background check. We don't do that for any other right. I mean, maybe some of those leftists need to have their backgrounds checked before they get to use their First Amendment. But why should I get a background check just to get have my Second Amendment? So,
yeah, I'm like, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to pass this literacy test before I allow you to speak. That'd be great.
Yeah, well, it would be a quiet world, Marty. It'd be a quiet world.
Gotcha. By chance.
You're gonna like this, Michaele. This is the next story I had up on here, and let's see. Oh, the hunter. Oh, I got my. Where did my story go? I don't know where it is. But that's all right. I know what's going on here. The Hunter Biden conviction on all charges, and there were 3 of them. And once again, I myself, no matter how much of a scumbag that I think Biden is, and he's really guilty of a lot of things, but I disagree with this decision because I don't think you should have to fill out a federal form to buy a gun. And I don't care if you are on drugs, because we don't stop alcoholics from buying drugs. We don't force people to take mental capacity tests to buy guns. And I'm one of those who I just don't want these type of regulations. And in the Second Amendment, it says shall not be infringed. And so even though this guy's a douchebag, I think that this was a bad charge, just as much as I think that President Trump's trumped up charges were bad charges. I think this is just as bad, and this is lawfare. And this is what is now going to happen is instead of people running in campaigns against each other, they're going to try to destroy each other in a court of law. And Marty, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, wow. There's a lot to unpack on that one. First off, when you said, I'm one of them, and I'm like going, what, an alcoholic buying a firearm?
Yes.
I was wondering how this sentence was going to turn out. But anyway.
Hey, wait a minute. Before you say that statement, there are a lot of pot-smoking Americans out there who have bought weapons and have had to lie on those federal forms because pot at one time was a Category 1 drug, and it was illegal in most places, and it's still illegal in most places, and you still, on the federal form, have to sign off that you're not addicted to marijuana. And since I don't believe you can get addicted to marijuana, in my opinion, I don't think that that's even a question that you can ask and get a good answer to, because I don't think it can happen. But there are a lot of people who smoke marijuana who are having their Second Amendment rights violated, because I think that most of them who buy guns, and this can be proven out by the statistics, are peaceful people who are not using their guns inappropriately, even though they may use other substances. I'm going to come out in defense of that.
Yeah, and actually, I will agree with you on I don't think we should have to fill out a bunch of stuff to go buy a gun. I mean, it's like, I go buy a car. I could kill as many people with a car as I could with a gun. I don't remember having to pass a federal background check for that. Now, I worked at an airport where I was in contact on the runway, and I had to get an FBI background check for that. Oddly enough, when I owned bars and restaurants, I had to get an FBI background check to get an ABC, an alcohol, tobacco,
which is bogus. That's bogus. That's bullshit.
Oh, I know. But I'm just saying, yeah, I know. And I just say I've had to do that. I think it's bogus. The one takeaway I get from this Hunter Biden thing is like, they introduced his laptop into evidence and said, by putting it into evidence, it is truly his laptop. And all the scum that's in that laptop, there's like 513 crimes that are well documented in that laptop. And I'm like, okay, it's been, I've had a copy of everything on that laptop anyway. And it's like everything that's in there is, it's like, okay, a couple of bogus gun charges, fine. Daddy's going to pardon you before he leaves office. We're not worrying about you doing any jail time, like I care anything about celebrities anyway, or presidential sons. But it's like, now we have all this well-documented evidence of not only Biden's crime, Hunter Biden's crime, but Joe Biden and Jim Biden and Jill Biden and Haley Biden and and all the other people that are involved in this, and the millions and millions and millions of dollars that have changed hands to sell what? They have 22 shell corporations selling what for $20 million a year.
Marty, there's got to be stuff from China and Ukraine that will put this guy and his father in prison for a long time if they're willing to look at it. Michaele, what do you think on this?
I think it was a total distraction. Number one, I think it's to show, oh well, see, if Hunter Biden and Trump can both be convicted, like that, it must be a fair system, right? Which is crap. We all know this is crap. And thank you, Marty, for bringing up the laptop, because if we were really looking at holding people accountable, we have some actually serious crimes against humanity that have happened. And we're talking about this stupid charge. It makes zero sense. The other thing is that when we live in a place like Oregon, where we have basically allowed people to become addicts and we don't do anything to help them, there's a disgusting story right now going around in Portland about a man who's been allowed to refuse medical treatment when his foot is literally rotting off from fentanyl abuse, because they mix it with other things that cause your body to reject your body. It's really horrible. But we're creating addicts here in Oregon, and we also happen to be a state that's not very friendly towards the Second Amendment. And I just see this as the next step to say, you have an addiction problem and now you can't have guns. It's all about control. It's all about taking away our Second Amendment right and our ability to protect ourselves from an overreaching government. That's what I see here.
Diane, you want to espouse on that?
Well, I think that's all we can do is look at it that way. We've seen what they've done with our seafood industry. They cleared the way by asking the processors to actually output cleaner water than tap water into the ocean after processing fish. If they don't, they close them down. All of these things that are going on with our firearms, our food, they're all intermingled.
Yep.
Oh, totally. Marty, did you want to quickly say something there? Oh, there.
Diane. Oh, no. Diane was dropping in and out, so I just figured I'd fill in the blanks until she came back. But yeah, I mean, if you don't think there's a huge overreach going on, then you're not paying attention. I mean, you look at every country that's banned guns. What happened right after they banned guns? I mean, it's like, and so you're going to defend yourself how now? No, you can't. Right. And and the whole thing with I agree with Michaele on this one. It was bread and circus this time. Let's show that Hunter Biden is going to go to court, and yes, he's going to be convicted, and the justice system is fair. And it's like, well, everybody understood the charges against Hunter. Nobody understood any of the charges against Trump on his quote unquote money, hush money trial. It's like if you ask anybody, okay, he was convicted for 34 felony accounts. What were those felonies? And nobody can answer that question.
Nobody can answer that question. So this was interesting, and this is why I included it right after that last story about Hunter Biden's trial, is Trump is now a convicted felon. It's true, no matter how much BS it is. And the GOP support for allowing felons to be president rises after Trump conviction. This was a poll. Listen to this. The survey conducted by YouGov comes less than a week after a jury convicted Trump, the presumptive GOP presidential nominee, of all 34 felony counts in his hush money case. 58% of GOP voters said in the new survey convicted felons should be allowed to become president if they are elected. YouGov noted that just 17% of Republicans held that opinion in April. 33% of independents said a convicted felon should be able to run for president. And just 12% of Democrats said in a recent poll, which is weird because I would think a lot of Democrats are already convicted felons. But
Well,
Kayla, we've got
well, everybody that signed the Declaration of Independence was, a felon.
right.
And so, and most of those, and a lot of those guys wound up being president. I mean, when when your country, when your country is overthrown, perhaps you are going to have to break some laws to get it back. But if the country is not run by the Constitution, it's like, okay, whose laws are we following here? I mean, it's like, yeah, we know the Constitution, we know our constitutional rights, we know what the laws are, but if they're not following the laws, why should we?
Right.
And Michaele, we are having a Republican National Convention happening. Well, you tell us, when is it happening? And they are going to be deciding whether he's going to be qualified to run for the party as a felon. Isn't that correct?
Yes. Okay. So everybody's getting there. I think July 14th on a Sunday, and then the convention actually starts on the 15th. It's the 15th through the 19th. It's going to be very interesting. To be completely honest, this isn't anything new. The Republican Party has been weighing this for a while now, whether or not there was going to be a conviction, whether or not this was a plan. And so there have sort of been whispers within the Republican Party about whether or not there's going to be a rules change to allow a different nomination. Right now, Trump is the nominee, and the plan is when everybody gets there to that convention, they should be voting for Trump. But we'll kind of see how that plays out. There, Laura Loomer actually shared a post probably about a week ago that said that there did appear to be a plan within the Republican Party to possibly change the rules at the last minute to allow a different nominee. That post that she put up there was deleted, but I can tell you, as somebody who's been very heavily involved, I have heard that rumor circulating for at least a year now. So I would encourage people to watch really, really closely, watch the delegates that were sent over to that convention, watch the people who are on the rules committee, pay attention to how people vote, because I do think that there's a lot of support from the people of the Republican Party for Trump being the nominee. I don't have as much faith that the people running the Republican Party have that same love for Donald Trump. So we'll see how it plays out.
I agree with you. I don't think that people running the Republican Party have the love for Trump. The people do, but the people in the party, it's a uniparty at this point. I'm looking at the new "Let Us Vote" policy, where we get one ballot and we can vote for both Democrat or Republican from a single primary. I don't mind that at all, and I think that we need to reform both parties. I'm very disappointed with the Republican Party myself.
Yeah, and I was like going, when you said "let us vote," I was going, okay, I know they're trying to get illegal aliens to vote because they brought so many illegals over the border, but now you're saying produce gets to vote as well? Man, lettuce is getting to vote? I mean, okay, the IQ of a head of lettuce, well, it might be in the running for some of the liberals I know, but at the same time, I don't want lettuce voting.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe some celery, maybe some carrots, but lettuce, I draw the line at lettuce.
I draw the line on lettuce too. I agree with you. Too much roughage in the diet. I just think that it's kind of funny that the Republicans all of a sudden are going, oh, well, felons aren't too bad. And now there's a lot of people, the African Americans, who are really supporting the president because he's now been a victim of a justice system that is obviously corrupt, broken, sabotage, whatever you want to call it. And I think people who are definitely not in the Republican establishment are starting to feel that they have more in common with Trump than they did before he was convicted. So I think this is very interesting. I think everything you guys have said, I totally agree with. I think that definitely this is going to be really interesting to watch what they do at the party. I fully think if the establishments, if they have any idea of stopping them changing the rules so that a felon can run, then you're going to see an all-out rebellion in the Republican Party. Just my.
I agree with you, Rob. I think this is a massive misstep for the Uniparty because all they're doing is making it that much more populist. It's that much more about the people. You're bringing the people together, actually, and removing some of the barriers that I think artificially were put up there when really conservatives believe in freedom. We believe in liberty, and I think that they're removing those barriers is actually going to grow a different party. I don't know. I don't know if it's still going to be called the Republican Party, but you're bringing people together that have never been together before. And that's cool. That's really cool.
I think it's totally cool. And a lot of the factions, because the party's broken up into several different factions, and I think a lot of them will have to come together because of their support for the president. So yeah, I think only good things can happen to this. So I want to switch gears again because there was an appellate court affirms a ruling releasing defendants from jail who don't get a public defender. And before I read from this article, I want to show you what the sheriff said and then what the DA said at the budget meeting that just recently happened. This is just a few minutes long.
Thank you. Of course, we take the charge seriously, and it's obviously I think every department is important. I get that as well. You know, they have great people and they do a good job. Some of the considerations we're looking at, we talked about maybe completely getting rid of patrol and just having the jail. But in 4002 recriminalized drugs. Come September, who's in Curry?
You put your name in there?
That didn't pass a levy of some sort recently. Josephine got the taxing district. Mary and Lynn, they got a levy passed. It sounds like Douglas might be in trouble, but they have a much better base than us. We're going to be the sanctuary for criminals and drugs. We're going to be 110 was for Oregon here, and I'm really concerned about it. So I can't eliminate patrol. It's too important. It's 43.6% of the population of the county over everything but 29 square miles that they take care of with 2 or 3 right now. And you're right about the unfunded mandates. I have a mandate to be accredited by July of 26. From what I hear with other counties, that takes upwards of 6 to 9 years and $500,000. That's something I'm going to have to talk to you guys about soon. Just found out the state is continually, the Department of Agriculture is going to charge us to come down and look at our books, how many dogs we got once a year. Anywhere from $1,000 to $2,500, $2,200, I guess. And that's not a lot of money, really, but it's really frustrating. So we've looked at stuff, how do we make up the difference? How can we help? Because we're in the general fund, and police should never be a money-making venture. But do we charge a booking fee for the cities? They're not in any better shape than us. Do we charge for animal control? Not a mandate that we go into cities and collect their dogs. I don't want to do that. I want to be a good partner to them, but I don't know that we're going to have a choice. So that's some stuff we'll talk about again in the future. So when we looked at this, we looked at a modular concept. What does it cost to close down a pod? What does it cost to get rid of one whole shift on patrol? Or we might have to leave the county unprotected overnight.
Partial answer to the question about the cost to the community. The 2 positions that are open, deputy DA positions that are open that are on the block, and I understand that they go. But we've made some internal decisions about the caseload. I cannot continue to prosecute everything that comes in the door with just 6 deputy DAs. I can't do it. And I understand that the 7th and 8th position are most likely going to go, all right? But I want people out there to understand.
And so there they were talking to the commissioners at the budget committee, talking about how these cuts are going to affect people. And the DA goes on to describe the different charges that he's not going to be able to press or actually adjudicate. He's not going to be able to put people on trial because he just doesn't have the money. The funding's no longer there. We didn't pass the tax. And this comes on top of this appellate court ruling, which affirmed the rules. A federal appellate court Friday upheld U.S. District Judge Michael McShane's order that counties across Oregon release criminal defendants from jail if they're not appointed a lawyer within 7 days of their initial court appearance. In the 2-1 decision, the appeals court called Oregon's public defense system a Sixth Amendment nightmare, referencing the part of the U.S. Constitution that requires the state to provide defense attorneys to those it charges with crimes if they cannot afford a lawyer. The opinion stated that Oregon alone is responsible for its failure to uphold legal protections for criminal defendants. In other words, the state legislators have failed to appropriate the proper amount of money to hire enough attorneys. And I think they were talking in here like 500. They need 500 additional attorneys to meet the obligation of what's happening right now. 500 additional attorneys for the public defender's office, because they have completely gutted the office. And I believe this is part of destroying the justice system. It's working fine for them, but it's how they destroy the justice system, because every 7 days, from the time someone's arrested to the time that 7th day comes up, they're allowed to go if they don't get a public defender, and they're guaranteed a public defender. And so when you see the sheriff and the DA talking about the money they're not getting, I have to ask the question, and Marty, I'll let you answer this. What does it matter if a lot of these people who are being put in jail are going to be released within 7 days?
Well, I mean, and it just addresses a larger issue with the situation where, yes, they are trying to destroy the justice system as we know it. I mean, decriminalizing drugs, it's like, oh, we got to decriminalize drugs. It'll cut down the amount of people that are being arrested for, petty crimes and whatnot. Well, it also increases the number of people that are doing drugs and are creating crimes to get more drugs. And, if you're not arresting, if there is no impetus to stop doing a bad thing, you're going to continue to do bad things. And the whole point is that, if they say, well, after your first court date, if you haven't been appointed a public attorney within 7 days, we got to let you go. Well, yeah, I mean, so there's got to be some way to loophole that one where it's like, hi, I'm your public attorney. Sorry, I can't talk to you now. I'm out of here. And then okay, you saw him, and good luck. You're going to sit around in jail for a while. But I mean, the biggest problem, and I think it was Fabrizio that brought it up. If we are the county that has like $0 for patrols and sheriffs and assistant DAs, and we can't put anybody in jail, and if we do put them in jail, we can't prosecute them, we can't take them to court, then aren't we going to be the place where everybody goes to do crime?
Pretty much.
Right.
So, that's the horrific thing I got out of that. I mean, I feel really bad for the sheriff's department. I feel really bad for the DA's department, because it's a tough enough job as is, and it's really bad when you don't have enough money to do even the basic stuff you need to get done. And then add to that the indignity of some NGO coming in and going, we're gonna have to charge you an extra $2,500 to make sure that your dogs are being treated right. And it's like, hold on. What about all the people that are being robbed and raped and murdered and harassed? And what about their rights? We don't care about that. Just make sure that dog's got its papers.
Okay, you heard it here first. I said it earlier. Death wish is happening. It's just a matter of time. We're doing Charles Bronson in the streets of Coos Bay. Okay, I'm just announcing that now. Get ready, folks.
I'm not part of this.
Just cover your eyes, Michaele. Cover your eyes and ears. Yeah, but I mean, it's like, or what was that movie, The Purge, where you get like 1 day a year? Yeah, where you can just go out and like shoot everything up and go, yeah, okay, yeah, let's do one of that. I'm sure that'll be fine.
I have to say though that they did get it right, you guys. We are innocent until proven guilty, not the other way around. We
Right.
have to have public defenders. And so if you have to err on one side or the other, you have to let people go. If you're not giving them the appropriate due process, if you're not providing them with a public defender, that's the right thing. It is the right choice. We should have never gotten to this point to begin with, because that has to be a top priority. You have to follow the Constitution. Our government has to be set up that way. We should have public defenders. That has to be top of the budget priority.
And so, Michaele, when I was thinking about this, when I was thinking about this article, I thought exactly what you said. Because I believe in your Second Amendment right. I've talked about your First Amendment right. Well, I believe in all the rights that are enumerated in the Constitution, specifically the Sixth Amendment, right to a speedy trial and the right to a public defender. I am 100% behind what you're saying, but I'm thinking the reason that they're doing this is because people like you and me and civil libertarians on the left and the right are going to argue that point. And that's why they did it, because they're really trying to get this issue to be a bigger issue than it is, because they're trying to get our attention. And I think it's for nefarious means. And I'm not sure.
They're trying to get our money, Rob. They're trying to get our money. They're saying, point. You want us to do something about it, you better pay up. Pay up now, approve the bonds, approve all of this stuff. Otherwise, we're going to make life horrible for you.
And what have they been spending the money on? All this DEI, new bureaucrat here, new bureaucracy here. It's in the sheriff's department. The sheriff's department had to pay for all of his deputy sheriffs to go through DEI training. And so did the Coos Bay police force, and I think all the other police forces. And they have to pay for these unfunded mandates. And if they get rid of this garbage, they would actually have the money they need for those rights. And like you said, I do think it's money. I think you're absolutely right, because it's just a twofold thing that they're trying to do. They're trying to destroy the system while trying to pull at our purse strings at the same time.
Yeah, well, they're doing both things. I mean, it's similar to, like, every time they talk about gun control, next thing you know, it's going to be a school shooting, or, and it's like, oh, okay, we're not getting any traction on this whole gun control thing. Release the mass shooter. Okay, we need the manifesto from the Tennessee, the Memphis person or whatever. Well, we're not going to release that because it was a horror show. They finally released it, and it was everything you can think of some nut job that was like, had been run off the DEI LGBTQ cliff and just driven crazy by, all this stuff that's meant to confuse children, meant to turn us against them, or them against us, and it's like, they're trying to destroy the government. They're trying to destroy Christianity. They're trying to destroy the nuclear family. I mean, the whole point is, if you want to take down this country, you can't attack it. You can't bring, warships to our shores and expect to win, but you can certainly destroy it from within. And that's what we're seeing, is we're seeing this unending loop of just, chipping away at our rights. And of course, we get the same message from every single channel out there that it's like, hey, there's nothing wrong. And, even though everything you see is wrong, you're not seeing the right thing. Believe what we're telling you, and it's like, all the hoaxes that we told you were not hoaxes. Well, okay, we lied to you like 100 times, but this time we're actually telling the truth. And yeah, you're supposed to believe that. At some point, either you got to be, and we are rubes, by the way, because we are out in the, we're in a small county and we're obviously uneducated and a bunch of hicks and rubes. But, at some point, even the stupidest person has to go, I am so tired of being lied to all the time. It's just, and I think if there was free speech and there was mass media that you could trust, a lot of people would understand there are a lot of people like us out there. It's just we don't have the opportunity to see them in everyday life, because now we got Leah Thompson, who's going to swim in the Olympics, and we got Caitlin, the WNBA gal that wasn't put on the Olympics team because Well, she is the best shooter in the WNBA, and 1/3 of all WNBA attendance is because people want to see her play. But yeah, we certainly don't want her in the Olympics because she's white.
Yeah. Hey, Diane, you want to comment on this?
Well, as far as the Olympics are concerned, as long as we understand the difference between male and female anatomy and we keep those separate, I think we're good to go. I really am against having men, whether they consider themselves to be transgender or not, compete in women's sports. I can't compete with Rob Taylor. His body's a lot stronger than mine. And it's not fair to put a man up against a woman in most physical sports. And, as you've brought in here, the Coos drag show situation down at the Dolphin Playhouse, this upsets me.
Yeah.
I really don't at all, Rob. What do you think?
Well, they gave the Dolphin Playhouse $100,000, I think it was like 2 years ago, through urban renewal money. And every year, everyone who's at property pays property taxes, pays for those urban renewal debts, and because they come out of the overlapping taxing districts, and the county itself is losing $350,000, $400,000 a year every year, so that they can give money to private businesses and non-government organizations or nonprofits like the Dolphin Theater. And then the Dolphin Theater does shows like this drag show, which, by the way, I have no problem with the drag show. My problem is the Urban Renewal Agency giving them $100,000 so that they can continue to have this debauchery at their theater. I don't know.
I appreciate you saying that, Rob, because I don't know what the Dolphin Playhouse is, and I appreciate that explanation, because I was going to say I actually don't have a problem with this. It says ages 18 plus. I believe adults should be able to do what they want. They want to go to a show like this. I don't care. If people want to put a show on like this, that's fine. Don't involve kids in it. But the fact
and
that
it does, by the way, Michaela, it says 18 and over. So I was even happy that they're doing 18 and over.
That's what I'm saying. This is 18 plus, so I don't have a problem with that. Adults can do what they want. But if it's being funded by the public, by taxpayer money, no, that's a problem. But that's a problem for me, not just for this show, but really for any special interest that it is being used for. So yeah, I mean, that's my only issue with it.
So, Michaela, this is the sad part, is that to get a good response from people, you have to shock them. And I kind of felt bad that I was shocking them, because I was really using this drag queen event as a hook to get people to notice that their tax dollars are being misappropriated. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, I was called a hater. I was called homophobic, transphobic, which is weird, because when I was in drag, my name was Anita Khan, and Anita Man. Anita Man. Yeah, and so that was years ago, and I got out of it. All that makeup and hair, it takes a lot out of you. And so I have no problem with the drag show as long as it's 18 and over.
The high heels always used to kill me. I mean, it was just like,
I know.
Yeah, I had the hair for it, I had the bod for it, but oh my God, the high heels, they were just, try doing a pirouette in high heels. It's just horrible.
So I
almost broke an ankle.
I think if people want to go to this, I support their right. I wouldn't protest it. I wasn't angry at the fact that they were doing this. I was just mad that the organization that is allowing this to happen is receiving our money. So thank you for pointing out that, Michaela, because I've got another one. And
wait, before you go, I was going to ask, and what else does the Dolphin Playhouse do? I mean, do they also do like movie nights, nostalgia movie nights, Shakespeare kind of things? I mean, if this is just a one-off, I mean, if they were doing drag shows all the time, I'd say, okay, this is a misappropriation of public money. yeah, if it's just a one-off, I don't care. I mean, as Michaele said, and I've always said, it's so long as you're, two or more consenting adults, whatever you want to do in your spare time, I don't care. I mean, I lived in West Hollywood.
I was
My
going to say,
roommate,
you lived in West Hollywood. Can you get any
Yeah.
more gay than that? I mean, seriously.
Yeah, I lived in West Hollywood in a 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment. My roommate was gay. Everybody in the building was gay, and we had 300 people in the building outside of the landlord and his wife. And so I obviously don't have an issue with gay or drag or any of that, because I look at it as like any other kind of entertainment. It's like, watching Marvel movies. I mean, I don't find them fascinating, but my wife does. And I was like, okay, well, it's like, but I watch them and I'm going, well, that's some really cool CGI. And I know exactly how the plot's going to go. And I know who's going to win and I know who's going to lose. And why am I spending all this time and effort to watch this? But it's just, so long as the Dolphin Playhouse is doing other things, and if they're doing things that benefit the community, and if this is just a one-off or something, I don't care. I mean, I'm fine with it. I mean, it does seem a little, but I mean, where else are they going to put it on the show? Maybe the Dolphin gives them a better rate than like the Egyptian or, Marshfield School.
Just the name of it sounds like they would cater to drag shows and stuff like that. So let me get on to the next event. The next event was the Pride in the Park Coos, which once again, they do allow teenagers and kids to this event. However, these people are gay. Nobody's being forced to go to it. And if people want to take their kids, I'm not going to argue with them. If my child said, hey, Dad, I'm going to go to Pride in the Park. Well, okay, son, I would say the same thing that I always tell them. Make sure you don't do anything wrong. Don't hurt anybody. And, take some money for a bus ride home. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not something that would really, oh, no, my kid's going to a Pride in the Park. I don't really care what people's sexuality is. But once again, I have to use this because this event, the where I got this picture was from the Coos Bay. The city council of Coos Bay puts out a newsletter, and they will never print our events. Like the windmill event, they won't print that. They won't print when we have event, the town hall at the Egyptian Theater. They wouldn't print that event because, well, we're right wingers, we're Christians, we're conservatives, we're libertarians. Whatever you want to call us, and they won't put that in their newsletter, but yet they'll put this. So I'm not opposed to the Pride in the Park. I just have to use it as an example that they're willing to do this woke agenda, because it is a woke agenda, because it's part of that inclusivity of DEI, inclusivity where they're actually exclusive because people of certain ideological beliefs are not allowed to participate. And that's what makes this woke. And therefore, I'm opposed to the city being able to do this. And in fact, we're going to do an event. We're going to send it to the city. And if they don't post it, we may levy a lawsuit against them, just like we did we threatened with the flag policy. And Diane, let me start with you on this one.
Well, I think that we all know how well the flag policy was taken. Nobody wanted to have the gay pride flags flown if they couldn't also fly the Christian flags. You can't just decide that you're going to side with one group and not with another group. This is a government building. And if you're going to stray away from the American flag and the state flag and include other flags, you're going to have problems. And so we need to eliminate that. And I don't mind if you want to do this, that's great, but you do have to also support the other people. You can't just decide, well, everything that's LGBTQ, other alphabet letters is okay and everything else can't be discussed. It's not fair.
Not fair. Michaele, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, so I don't know anything about this event. I haven't looked into it yet, but I would just say I definitely agree with some of what you were saying. This is more about an issue of special rights versus everyone's rights. And I know they're sort of marketing it as this inclusive thing, but it's actually not. It's the opposite of that. It's exclusive. But my biggest issue would be, because this is an all ages event. It doesn't say it on here, but there's definitely some advertising for things like that. And I know that, for instance, if you go to the Douglas County Fair and if you're a vendor there, you have to agree to basically provide a family-friendly type of a space. You can't do things that are too controversial. It has to be, palatable to the general community, because you're going to have the general community there. I would be interested to know what the contracts look like to be a vendor or have a booth at this event. And I really hope that the whoever's putting this on is ensuring that there is only age appropriate things available for children to see. We do have state laws that say that children under the age of 18 are not old enough to consent to these sexual messages. They should not be seeing anything that would be considered pornographic. And I know that from looking at like X, for instance, you see these pride parades and you see things that are totally inappropriate that kids should not be exposed to. So I hope that this is being done responsibly. And if it does, then I support their freedom to be able to do it. I just want to make sure our children are protected in the meantime.
Michaela, when you say that, I completely agree with it. But then I think back to when I was a young man, and Diane and Marty can probably back me up on this because they weren't saints. Don't let them lie to you. They weren't saints. And I used to go to the, what was that, Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah.
And it was a blast. And they had guys dressed like chicks and chicks dressed like dudes and people dressed all weird to go to the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And this was at 12 years old. And I won't tell you the hallucinogenics I was on at the time, but we used to go to those things at midnight movies.
Yeah.
And so we were like
free range
in the 70s. What?
Weren't they rated R? Were you allowed to go in there? Did you sneak in?
Yeah. Nobody carded us. This was the 70s. Nobody got carded back then. Diane and Marty, you got to back me up on this. Am I right?
Let's do the time warp again. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just it's I can't do a good Tim. I can't do good Tim Curry. Sorry, but anyway, I mean, like you said earlier, I actually don't have a problem with this whole thing, other than the fact that they're using Schoolhouse Rock type of graphics, and I'm like, yeah, that's kind of aiming towards kids or younger folks. And I'm a little curious about the whole who their partners and sponsors are, because I can't read it. But I'm mostly incensed about the fact that they're putting this in their newsletter, and they refuse to put you in the newsletter or events that are actually impacting the community, like the windmill thing. And it's like, well, either you're going to have, everybody, you're going to be all inclusive, or you're going to be specifically exclusive. And you're sending a message that says, the overarching message is, we don't want you to have your own point of view. We don't want anybody that's strong-minded. Fall in with the rest of the crowd. Be sucked into this, this whole thing that everybody's now got to be transgender and gay, and you don't know your gender and you're confused. And we're going to talk to you about sexuality when you're in first grade. It's like, are you kidding me? I mean, I didn't know anything about sexuality until I got to like 10th grade, or maybe sophomore in college.
Marty, one of these agencies at the bottom, whoever is sponsoring this show, one of them is, and I can't remember which agency it was, but they prepare kids to go to elementary school. So they actually are educating elementary school kids, and that's why. Okay, that might be a problem if they're sponsoring it. Plus, there's 2 or 3 of these who live off our tax dollars, which I don't think that our tax dollars should be going for this either, because they don't pay taxes those people don't sponsor our events. When me and Diane have a windmill event, they didn't buy our signs, they didn't pay for our gas to go down there. And so it's kind of frustrating that once again they're paying for this Pride in the Park, which isn't really the problem. The problem is the government money that's going to it, and the fact that children are being kind of lured. They're being lured into this, and from the graphics, you could just look at it.
Yeah, it's like fun. Come on, kids, let's go.
But
I mean,
industries
go
that
ahead.
we're protecting when we go out and we protest against the wind turbines, that's the fishing industry, our food processing industries. These are large groups of people who need to be able to feed their children. And this should come much before a small segment, an entertainment area, rather than looking actually what's going to feed our children and make it so that they can go to school and have clothes on their backs. What we do is absolutely imperative.
So one of the commenters, Hezekiah Wallace, says that South Coast Early Learning is the organization that I was thinking of. South Coast Early Learning helps children's transition into elementary. And so, yeah, that was, and Lenny Ketchum, he has a comment here. He says, Rocky Horror Picture Show was the foot in the door to the gender bending weirdness. And it was weird. It was quite weird. And thank goodness you grow out of those stages in your life, because, yeah, I don't know why that was such a fascination for all of us kids to go to those midnight movies, but we did. We were interested in that kind of stuff. And Alex Bowser says he agrees with Lenny. And so, I don't know how old these guys are, but
Yeah,
like
I agree with Lenny as well, just because he wants to drink, Rolling Rock with me. But
Yeah, I agree with that. So just to show you one more, we had another one come out, and this is a private event, Gender Affirming Closet, the community art gallery. This is happening at the Sears store in the Pony Village Mall, and it's Pride Day on June 29th. I didn't know that. It's Flag Day, and once again, these are the type of events that are happening throughout June. But if you notice those other events, one was happening just a couple of days before the 4th of July after June, and the second one that I showed you was happening in August. So this is really the only one that's happening in June. So when they talk about Pride Month, all of a sudden we've got Pride Summer. You know what I mean? It just keeps expanding and expanding, but I don't know. Maybe it's me. Like I said, I don't really have too much problem with these as long as they're not luring children, but I think that we've just kind of stepped into it and proved that they are kind of luring children. And if you look at this this pamphlet that they're showing, Michaele, what do you think of this one?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what age group it's targeted towards. It seems like maybe it's open to everyone. Again, I think that people should be free to participate in these things if they want to. But my biggest thing is what you already said. It's with the kids. They're not old enough to consent, and our children should be able to be free to just grow up to be who they are, and they don't need to be bombarded with adult things. And I'm sorry, but sex is an adult thing, period.
Right.
End of story. And the law says it too.
And the law says it too.
Yeah.
And with a gender affirming affirmation closet. That's an interesting concept for raffles and prizes, isn't it, guys?
Yeah.
Well, are we getting taking a raffle to figure out what my gender is now? I mean, it's like, and how much blowback would we get if we had like heterosexual Pride Day, or hetero day, and it's like, and what am I supposed to do for hetero day? Walk around with my penis hanging out? I mean, I'm not really certain how this is supposed to work. I mean,
I think you're supposed to hang out with your wife and hold her hand all day and have a picnic because you're heterosexual day.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Maybe that would be a nice day. Okay, so I don't know. Maybe it would be the opposite of Pride Day. You're not having raffles or prizes or dressing in dresses. Maybe you're just out there doing what I don't know, maybe you can cut down a tree. Doing a manly thing with your wife while she eats on the picnic blanket with the picnic basket that you brought her on a lovely day. Am I off, ladies? Am I completely off? Where is heterosexual day for you two?
We're just, I think that's actually a great point, Rob. I think we're too focused on self, like self-station. Here we go. It's all about your identity and what you identify as. And really, honestly, that is what's wrong with our society. Stop looking at yourself all the time. Start looking at other people. Make somebody else's life better. Be a good husband to your wife. Be a good wife to your husband. Be, or whatever. Be a good person to whoever's important in your life. And that should really be more the focus. And I think that if people did that a little bit more, our society would be a lot better. Because right now it's all about.
Well, and some of this, I mean, obviously some of this got started when everybody was locked down and you were like stuck, like you couldn't go anywhere. You couldn't hang out with people. You couldn't socially interact. And it's like all of a sudden everybody turned introvert and turned, and it's like, oh, now it's all about me. Now it's all about me. I mean, it's like, back in the day, if you walk into a store and you didn't have a mask on and everybody else did, you'd be like, it's like, it's like, so everybody had to everybody had to follow what was going on and everybody had to be like, oh, I got to take care of myself, it's like, and now it's like, I grew up in a small town. I mean, even smaller than Bandon. I graduated in Bandon, but I mean, I originally was born and raised in small town Iowa, population 600. And it's like everybody knew everybody. You were part of the community. You didn't have to worry about crime. You didn't have to worry about bad people. And if like somebody's barn burned down, it'd be like 30 people would show up and help start build another one for them. If somebody was a little short on money and they needed food, people would come by and have like a, potluck dinner, and bring way too much stuff. I mean, because it was just part of this community. If accidents, tragedies happens, everybody would come together. And now it's like, well, I can't be bothered to talk to you. I'm busy taking a selfie of myself. And how many hits did I get on social media about this?
Yeah.
I'm doing fart bubbles in the bath. I mean, I should be getting at least 1,000 hits.
Right. I at least. Diane, you want to finish this off?
Well, how can I do anything with Marty's last comments?
God, well.
I mean, really, that kind of leads you down the road. But no, we've got to understand that doing things for other people is what we're here for. It's not just for ourselves. And if we start looking at what we can do for other people, we all are better off. It's not about pride. Pride is one of the 7 deadly sins. Remember, as long as we're trying to do the best we can for our children and our families and given, I think we're going to do a whole lot of great things. And we need to protect ourselves because our government right now is not protecting us. It's working this, and we need to focus on what's good for us and go from there.
All right. I agree with you. Guys, we've been doing this for 2 hours and 15 minutes. I kind of think I need to give you guys a bathroom break. I want to thank you all for coming on. Let me start with Michaele. Michaele, is there anything you want to say before I get you out of here?
Thank you so much for a great show. It was awesome to be on with you guys. I miss your beautiful faces and can't wait for the next one.
You betcha. Diane, anything you'd like to say?
I'll see you 2 tomorrow. Let's go and rally against these wind turbines and stop them.
You got it. Marty?
Well, Michaele, thanks for saying beautiful faces, but obviously you need to see an optometrist because you are not seeing the same picture of myself that I'm seeing. But anyway, yeah, so we will be in Gold Beach tomorrow at noon, and we will be in Brookings at 2, waving signs and doing our rally against the windmills. It's great to see you, Michaele. It's great to see you, Diane. Rob, I'll see you tomorrow as well. And then a point that I kind of want to pick up on the last thing Diane said was, helping people out is part of how your life gets better. And the whole thing is I think there's a lot of people out there that think this way. It's just that the constant pounding from the media is, it's like every single commercial. Have you noticed every single commercial on broadcast television is, either a bisexual couple or a black couple with and it's just like, they're throwing this diversity thing at us with such force that it's like they're making you feel bad about being exactly who you are. And I'm like going, so at the expense of 10% of the population, 90% of the population has to pretend, has to feel like they're the bad people. And there are there are bad people, and jails are full of them. But I mean, the whole idea is everybody can pretty much get along, so long as you don't keep believing the message that, it has to be this way or else. And I'm like, no, it doesn't have to be that way. The easiest way is like every time I go into town, I smile and I wave to people, I talk to everybody, and you'd be surprised how far a smile or a wave will get you. And if a lot of people are just like going, I'm afraid to interact with people. And then I start interacting with them. They're going, I ought to do more of this. I ought to talk to people more.
We definitely lived shelved lives, and I want to thank you all for coming on. I'll get you all back on here some other time to talk about many of the issues that are going on, because it's never going to end, and we're always going to be fighting this. Michaele, Diane, Marty, I want to thank all of you for joining me.
Well, thanks for having us on. It was great. A lot of fun.
All right, and that was my panel for tonight, and I want to appreciate all of you who tuned in. I have a lot of fun when I got good guests on the show, and not only were these good guests, but they were friends of mine who we've shared a lot of experiences in politics. I mean, we have fought the hard battle in politics. Luckily, it wasn't in the streets using our brass knuckles and knives and stuff. It was in the political arena. Very dangerous in the political arena. You got to be able to be maneuverable. Yes, you got to know that verbal jujitsu so you can take on your opponent. It's all that kind of thing going on there. But before I get too distracted, I want to tell you there is a BOC meeting at the Owen Building here in Coos County and Coquille, 9:30 a.m. Tuesday, and I recommend you be there if you want to hear more about the budget. And don't forget, of course, Monday night at 6:30 at Marshfield High School, Commissioner Rod Taylor is having a town hall. So you can go Monday night. On Monday at 3 o'clock, you can watch my show. Then at 6:30, you can go to Marshfield High School to listen to Rod Taylor. And then Tuesday morning, you can go to Coquille, Oregon, and sit down at the BOC meeting from 9:30 till whenever the hell they get out of there. And it would be a full week, just starting your week off. That is, if you didn't have to work or have a life, and that's the problem with these things, is that most of us do have to work and do have a life, and we can't get to all these meetings. And, of course, there's another meeting. The Coos Bay City Council is meeting Tuesday night at 6 p.m., Tuesday, 500 Central at the City Hall building. I highly recommend you go check them out and see what's going on. And 3H Tree Service. Good guys over there. If you need your trees taken down, I highly recommend you go to 3H Tree Service. They can remove those problem trees with surgical precision. You can reach them at 541-294-1800. Once again, that's 541-294-1800, and you can reach 3H Tree Service. Ask for Matt Holman, and we will be playing Where's 3H Tree Service on Monday. It's an exciting game, and those guys over there, they're great guys. The Holman boys. Holman men. I'm sorry. I don't know why I say that. Tom and Giggs. Tim over at Tom and Giggs. He'll be joining us Monday for his rant. He always joins us about 4 o'clock. I have him come on after I have the regular guest. And, of course, he'll be talking about the things that are going on over at Tom and Giggs. He's a busy man. I mean, you got a lot of vehicles on the road. You got to take care of them. Tom and Giggs is the place to go. You need a muffler. You need a tonneau cover. You need to have the engine looked at, whatever you need. I mean, you need alignment, they can take care of most of this stuff. Most of your automotive needs, they can take care of. You need a new light bar, go to Tom and Gigs. It's a happening place over there at 135 Stoneman Street, Coos Bay, Oregon. And Herbal Choices is one of the finest retail outlets for cannabis. And if you're in the need for cannabis, they've got 5 stores. They got one in South Bandon. They've got one northbound in Coos Bay. They've got one southbound coming over the bridge into North Bend. And then they have one in Charleston and one in Reedsport. They've got a lot of stores. And that's because they do good business, and people love going to the Herbal Choices store to pick out their herbal needs. And if you're going to do it, remember, do it safely and don't drive. Let's see, Oregon's Firearms Federation. Kevin Starrett, he's the man with the plan. He's been taking on those who would take away our Second Amendment rights. We don't want our Second Amendment rights taken away, but that's okay, because here in Oregon, we got the Oregon Firearms Federation fighting for us. They're in court right now, fighting Measure 114, and you've got to go read the latest articles that Kevin has put out. You can go over to OregonFirearms.org. That's OregonFirearms.org, and check out all the alerts that he's put in. And I had to do a little research in some legislation on guns, and it was neat because I went to his search engine on Oregon Firearms Federation website. I typed in their search engine for what I was looking for, and I saw articles going back to the mid-2000s. It was like 2008, 2009. It was so cool to have all this information. It was like a Rolodex of information right there on the OregonFirearms.org website. So this is a good group. I highly recommend that you get to them if you give a chance. Bandon Gun Club, they're not sponsors of mine. They're just people that I think you should visit if you want to hone your gun skills. They've got a 5-stand trap shoot, and they have a pistol range, and you can get in contact with them at bandongunclub.org. And Tioga Sports Park, if you want to go practice shooting your rifle, they've got a 100-yard rifle range. You can sight in, and you can find out more at tiogasportspark.org. Once again, that's tiogasportspark.org. And let's see, I think that was it. Wow, I went through that pretty damn quick. And I want to thank all of you for joining me. And once again, if you are checking me out on one of my platforms, Facebook, you're on X, formerly Twitter, you're on Rumble, or you are on, what's the other one? YouTube, of course, YouTube. How could I have forgot? If you're on YouTube, please like and share my videos. I need to get those things out there to people who want to learn about Southern Oregon, Oregon in general, and even some of the national issues that we discussed tonight. I am going to try to bring in more of those national issues. I'm going to try to have more of these panel-like discussions on Friday night because, you know, it's two guys ranting in a room just kind of might drive people a little bit crazy. I thought it was kind of nice to have a variety of people on here, and I'm going to try to get people who aren't quite conservatives. That's what I really like, people who normally may not even talk to a person like me, but I'm going to take the challenge, and I'm going to try to find people who we may disagree with. And I would love talking to people I disagree with when we can have a good conversation, a civil conversation, because you learn so much from them, and you can hone your skills to argue with people that you disagree with and do it in a civilized, civil manner. And so I'm going to try to get more people like that on the show. Let's see, are there any good comments over here? Let's see. Thanks for the great show. You people give me hope. Thanks, Alex. That was Alex Bowser. That was a nice comment. And Lenny, he says, you guys are awesome. Well, thank you, Lenny. I appreciate that. I think all of you guys are awesome, too, because it's really cool to be able to talk to people while you're actually doing a show. You're sitting here and you've got your whole, your crew of people on the air, and then you've got anyone who wants to can make comments on YouTube or on Facebook or Twitter. So it's a nice big world out there, and the internet has made it a lot smaller. So thank you all for tuning in. Tune in on Monday. I haven't got a guest scheduled. I was trying to get Rod Taylor on the show before the town hall. We may work something out with that. If not, tune in anyway. But until then, folks, you know what I always say? Carry on, America. Carry on.